I love to drink coffee. And I live in New York City, and there is a coffee shop which shall remain unnamed on every corner in New York City. And I go there a lot for two reasons. One, because I travel a lot, and so everywhere I go, I know that my coffee is going to be consistent. Think what you will about the space itself, whatever, but the coffee will be consistent. I appreciate that. Yes, think what you will about the big corporate entity. I appreciate the consistency. Also, there's a great system, and I appreciate a good system. So you walk in, it's always really crowded, even though there's one on every corner. I will never understand that. Lines to the door. You tell someone what you want, right? You then work your way up to the counter. By the time you pay, a person has your drink, and you take it, and your day is so much better and brighter. So I went to get coffee on my way to teach a class. I'm dressed like this. This is me. I walk in, I have my order. I go to pay, right? The person says, "What did you have?" And I say, "I had a grande non-fat misto." And he says, "Oh, you got me." And I was like, "Hmm?" And he said, "I totally thought you were a dude." So I was like, I grabbed my coffee and just like scurried out the door, right? When I got out, I was like, well, that wasn't right. I got to go back in there. And then I was like, I don't have time to go back in there. I have a class to teach. Oh my gosh, I have a class to teach. What if some of my students were in there and they saw that I didn't say anything? That's terrible. Now I have to go back. I can't go back. I'm never going back there again. And so I had a range of emotional responses in about a 60-second period of time, right? So let's talk about really quickly why I use that story to illustrate this idea, right? So when we think about the big idea behind that interaction, I'm going to name that cisgenderism. I'm going to name that cisgenderism because cisgenderism is the assumption that all people are cisgender, that there are two genders, those correspond with sexes assigned at birth, that there are men and women, nothing in between, and that you can tell who a person is based on the way they dress, the way they talk, right? A series of cues, and you can tell, right? So that was sort of the big idea driving this interaction. My assumption is this person saw me. They were like, short hair, suit, dude, okay. And then I spoke, and they were like, not really sure. And then you saw what they did, right? Their reaction. So that's the big idea, right? And then I think about, well, wait a minute, how is that manifesting at the institutional level? What happened there, right? And so I don't know if this is true. This is the story that I have made up. I don't know if it's true. Let me just disclaimer, don't know if it's true. I've worked in the service industry a lot, and I grew up in the South. So let me ask you, when you're being trained to show respect in the service industry, and also at least where I'm from in the South, how are you trained to show respect to people? Yes, ma'am. No, sir, right? That is taught at the institutional level, right? If you're going to show respect and you're going to be a good human being, you need to say, yes, ma'am, and no, sir, which means you're responsible for making a determination based on that moment of whether or not you're going to call someone a ma'am or a sir. Institutional practice, right? I don't need to describe the interpersonal interaction. That's pretty evident through that story. And then the way that was internalized for me. Range of reactions, none of which were wrong, right? So here's the important thing. That was just me getting a cup of coffee that I didn't even need in the afternoon, right? That was not life and death. My job was not dependent on that interaction. My housing was not dependent on that interaction, and I had the power to leave. I could just walk out, and my day could continue like that never happened, right? But this kind of stuff happens to young people all of the time. Happens to more than young people, but we're focusing on young people right now. Happens to young people all the time in the context of their educational pursuits, in their homes, in our programs, when they're trying to get jobs, when they're trying to keep jobs. This kind of stuff happens all the time.